Welcome back to Long Walk Talks. I'm your host, David Hensley, owner and creative director of Long Walk Productions, and I am joined by my two co-hosts, Stan Wilson Lee.
Hello.
Chris Barnes.
I'm the other one.
And we are once again joined by our guest host, Robert Brafford.
Robert.
Hello there.
And the discussion for this episode is going to be, everyone shut up about remakes.
No, you're out of ideas.
The prevailing argument, and it's been this way for the last 20 years, maybe longer, is Hollywood is running out of ideas. Everything you see nowadays is a sequel or a remake or a superhero film,
Or a reboot.
And I don't see why that is a recent argument, why everyone thinks that this is a new thing. I also don't see how it's a bad thing. We've had some bad remakes, yes, but Hollywood is a business, and it's in the business of making money. And what makes money? Sequels.
And remember,
reboots.
Hollywood isn't even a place. It's just an idea. But the idea that
Well, it is technically a place.
Well, it is, but it's
But before
They've got a sign and everything.
but before it even was a place, it was. There wasn't anything new to remake.
And they
something.
don't make the ideas. Somebody brings an idea to a producer, and so it's writers. Are the writers out of ideas, or but
are producers out of ideas? Because
Producers.
producers are looking for
Money.
money makers.
Yeah.
Because they want to make sure that the money they put in multiplies. Mm-hmm. That's the business side of this creative business.
And if you just take a cursory glance at a lot of the stuff that we are getting today, it's not all sequels and remakes and reboots. We're getting a lot of great original content.
And bad original content.
Well,
it's...
yeah. But a film like Get Out wouldn't be possible now if Blumhouse didn't have so many other subpar films, potentially, in some people's opinions, subpar films,
But they
that
made
are making money.
Good save.
Well, thank you. So, Chris and I, it seems like, did the exact same research on this
We did the
topic.
exact same cursory Google search, yeah.
Yeah. So the very first sequel that people can pin down, and this might not be 100% accurate, but the sources we looked at seem to agree, was 1916's Fall of a Nation, which was a sequel to the 1915 film The Birth of a Nation.
Not done by the same person, though. D.W. Griffith did The Birth of a Nation, and Thomas Dixon Jr. made the sequel.
which was more racist.
Was it? I
mean,
know. I know.
that's
It
what I'm asking.
was
Of the two
possibly.
films.
It said it was as controversial as the first, but I don't know in what
I can't-
Did
context.
anybody? I didn't know about the fall.
I didn't either.
I don't.
Did anybody see it?
I don't think it did as well as Birth of a Nation. So it just kind of dropped off the map in terms of, especially because because Griffith didn't make it, so it's just not considered.
Because I'm part of the camp that Birth of a Nation is poignant because it introduced us to all the techniques of filmmaking, but as a movie itself and the subject matter, it can go to fucking hell. But
because it helped the Ku Klux Klan reemerge.
Yeah, I can't believe that Fall of a Nation
Could be more racist.
could be better or could be redemptive of Birth of a Nation.
No, I don't think.
I
either
don't
of those
think
things
so.
are
If
I didn't know about it. That's interesting.
I had never heard of Fall of a Nation. The first remake is considered...
predates that actually.
Yeah, predates that. Was of The Great Train Robbery. The original Great Train Robbery, released in 1903. The remake of The Great Train Robbery, 1904. So 1 year later, a different director took the exact same plot, exact same title, and remade it.
Well, there have been so many advances in special effects. I mean, you
To
could
be
do
fair,
so many new things with the
It's
idea.
almost like the original Asylum Pictures move, because he basically repackaged the same movie and resold it
Yeah.
to people, making them think, oh, this is just like the first. This is just like the other one. It's like it's the same thing.
I wish I had written it down. The idea of the asylum, taking a basic idea and just repackaging it. In 1905 or 6, we got something like the crazy bank robbery or something like that, or the big bank robbery. And then almost 40 years
there
later.
was a version remade of the Great Train Robbery where it was kids doing it. There was
where they're playing with
Yeah.
toys and a toy train.
Yeah.
Well, then almost 40 years later, we got another remake of the Great Train Robbery in 1941. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And then the first reboot, Return of Godzilla in 1984.
Basically did away with all the campy stuff that had come previously after they just went back to the origin of the original Godzilla.
Really, that was the first
Reboot.
That would be
That's the
first
first-
reboot.
According to
The
what we read,
first
that
recognized reboot, yeah.
was, yeah, rebooting a franchise.
So it was. Was it like like you said?
It did away with the
started-
Monster Island stuff, yeah.
So was it a Toho?
Yeah.
It was a Toho.
It was theirs, yeah. They just decided we're just going to go back to basics. We're going to ignore all the stuff that happened in like the 70s and onward. The 60s.
So
and
no
70s.
baby Godzilla.
Nope.
So just jettison the clutter.
No
Just
Mothra.
get
Yeah,
back to
basically. Back to
Back-
basics.
Yeah, back to basics. Now, I
I did have one more.
yeah.
We told about the remake of the Great Train Robbery. The first known remake of a film, of an earlier film by the same director, is by Cecil B. DeMille. He made a movie in 1921 called Forbidden Fruit, and which was a remake of a previous movie he'd done called The Golden Chance.
And long before we got the 11 Oscar-winning Ben-Hur, there were 2 other previous versions of Ben-Hur.
Yes.
And then they made another one in
2016?
yeah, around that time.
Now, I did not look this one up, but let's talk about superhero films and the earliest examples of that. That's got to be the George Reeves Superman? Is that
Well,
right?
no,
I think even before that, you got in the 1940s, there were...
Batman. There was a
yeah.
Batman serial.
Right.
It's
And-
terrible.
And there's
Actually, Rifftrax has almost that entire series up on their site that they've made fun of.
Yeah.
And then there was
there was stuff like
Well, there
the
was
Spirit
the Shadow
and
as
the
a radio
Shadow.
drama.
There was a film. Like I guess what's the minimum length of a feature? So like the first
7
Oh, that
minutes?
didn't exist for a long time. That's
Yeah.
a specification.
But there was like an hour and 2-minute film version of I think a Shadow or a Spirit. So it's like that would be an early contender for first superhero.
If we're talking about festival submission lengths, most festivals consider a feature over 40 minutes. Some consider it over an hour.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But
I
I guess
was thinking over an hour.
I think you're right that the George Reeves Superman series would probably be the first time that there was a real lasting impact from a superhero story told
Oh yeah.
in a medium other than a comic book or on
Well,
the radio.
are we
Oh
excluding
yeah.
like
Okay.
Flash
He
Gordon?
said radio.
Or because
That's true. The Flash Gordon
Gordon
serials.
You
would
could
be
technically
first.
call that
Those
a
directly
superhero.
inspired Star Wars. And there were other serials like that. Not all of them were great, but yeah.
And then this idea of, in the last 20 years, the superhero genre has just exploded. Everything's a superhero film now.
Oh, they've been
Well, let's
trying.
take it back to the 1970s and the 4 Christopher Reeves Superman films, starting in the 80s.
The live action Spider-Man TV show, both here and in Japan.
You've also got with the Superman, we saw all the controversy over the reshoots in the Justice League. The director left midway through the project and they spent something like $100 million refilming it. That's not dissimilar to what happened with the second Superman film way back when.
Oh,
Richard-
yeah, 'cause they-
Richard Donner.
cut.
Yeah, just recently, within the past 10 years, they released his actual
Yeah,
cut of the
finally.
movie. Yeah.
Yep.
Other notable remakes: The Wizard of Oz. There was a version in 1910 and 1925 before the 1939 one came out. Before it became the iconic one. A Fistful of Dollars is technically a remake of the Japanese film Yojimbo,
Right.
to the point where Kurosawa and his film company sued.
Despite
And-
the fact that Kurosawa, it's acknowledged, got that plot from Dashiell Hammett's Red Harvest.
Yeah. Hey. But they were able to prove their case in court, and
Yeah.
it's not like Hammett sued him, so.
Star Wars itself, a remake of The Hidden Fortress, also a Kurosawa film.
Then there's Scarface. Scarface is a remake of a 1932 film, just reset in Florida and with a Cuban main character.
The Magnificent Seven is an American remake of Seven Samurai,
Mm-hmm.
another Kurosawa film.
And then and that was the Yul Brynner Magnificent Seven. Now that we have the Denzel Washington, Chris Pratt Magnificent
Yeah.
Seven, which is
I think
pretty damn good.
I think the
too.
prevalent point is like a lot of what we consider to be classics owe to what they built from earlier, what you would call the prototypes, the pre or the
One of the things that I'm going to talk about
Oh, yeah.
in our next segment, you talk about prototypes,
Yeah.
is the Michael Mann film Heat,
Mm-hmm.
which is an expanded on version of an earlier film that he made called
Yep.
L.A. Takedown. He considered that a prototype, so he went back to earlier drafts of L.A. Takedown and started expanding on that to get what I consider one of the best films of all time.
Agreed.
something I didn't know until I looked it up last night. There was a Jason Bourne TV movie originally.
What?
Yeah,
What?
it's more
Based more on the novels?
based
on the
more on the
novel?
based more closely taken from the novels specifically. It's a lot more old people talking.
Oh,
It'd be hard for it to be less closely based on the
Yeah.
novels, because much as I love the Bourne films, Amnesiac Spy gets pulled out of the ocean. That's pretty much all they have in common.
Yeah,
with
yeah.
the source book.
They made a TV movie back in the 80s.
before we move on, let's just take a moment to acknowledge the Roger Corman efforts for Fantastic Four and Spider-Man. Spider-Man never actually made it to production, but Fantastic Four did.
Yeah, that was a and I believe it was a favor for a friend to hold on to the rights. So it's like, okay, well, as long as we have this movie, because Marvel, when they were pretty much broke, they were like, well, let's license our characters out for movies. And then the deal they made was, well, as long as you keep making movies for these characters, you can keep them. Which is as dumb as it sounds out loud, was something they
exploited for a long time because
Yeah.
that's how we got the Andrew Garfield
Yep.
Spider-Man movies, was so that Sony wouldn't lose the rights.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just
Did we not like the Andrew Garfield story?
I think they're good. I like
Yeah.
Andrew
I
Garfield.
like-
I loved Emma Stone.
Yeah.
They've got strong elements, but
yeah. But I think what people wanted more was Spider-Man back in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is why I think Sony eventually worked out a deal, because they saw how much money that
And
would
Tom
Oh, yeah.
Holland's pretty awesome.
Yeah, Tom
Yes.
Holland is
Yeah.
the best.
Did you
Peter
see?
Parker and
Has
Spider-Man
anyone
we've
else
got
seen
so
that
far.
picture online of Tom Holland side by side with the young Stan Lee and how close and similar they look?
Yes, I have seen that.
Really? I haven't seen it.
All right. Well, now that we've kind of covered the history in general, let's move on to our first topic, remakes that worked. Robert, do you want to start us off?
I think for me, one of the gold standards is always going to be Ocean's 11.
Yes.
I think you've got
Very good, yeah.
What you had was just basically a Rat Pack hangout movie, a chance for Frank and Dean and just the rest of the guys to hang out around Vegas, and it's fun. But I think Steven Soderbergh looked at that and said, I think in that outline, I could take some of those same fun ideas, get a bunch of movie stars together, make it a very glitzy, very fun movie, but also put real effort into the twists and turns of the heist. So I think there you've got a remake that took a solid idea and just decided to do much, much more with it. I think we've already talked about how a lot of classic films could be
Yeah.
considered remakes.
Oh, yeah.
Star Wars, Magnificent Seven, all of that. I think The Departed is a pretty strong one.
That's true.
It was based on a Hong Kong crime film called Infernal Affairs, or at least that's how it was released in English.
Great source
Yeah,
material.
fantastic. I
Oh, yeah,
actually,
Infernal Affairs is a great film.
yes,
All three of them. There's actually 3 internal affairs.
I did not see the other two.
They're all brilliant. I mean, the twist is same throughout because it's the undercover infiltrator, but so you have to keep track of them.
Yeah.
But Departed, yeah, I did not believe Matt Damon would be so great in that movie, and he is wonderful. He steps up to DiCaprio in that movie, and he steps up to Wahlberg. Wahlberg's actually really great in that movie.
Nicholson.
Nicholson is brilliant.
Nicholson is
One of
enjoying
his best
himself.
villainous roles.
And Martin Sheen.
Yes.
Come
Yeah.
back to Martin Sheen. But
When you've also got Vera Farmiga.
Vera Farmiga, I mean, what Scorsese did with that, and he totally acknowledged that he was remaking Infernal Affairs, and it's like I'm doing it in Boston, and it works on every level. Performances, direction, everything is great. Sorry, Robert, but that is one of my favorite films of the last 20 years.
I think, are we limiting this to just film remakes, or are
No.
we looking at... 'Cause I think one of the most successful remakes of the last, say, 20 years, I think the reimagining of Battlestar Galactica, taking what was like it's just taking an idea from the 1970s that was a pretty naked ripoff of Star Wars. It's a space and lasers that made big money. Let's try to do that on TV. It got canceled after a season, and then in the early 2000s, a couple of ex-Star Trek writers were like, you know what would be a really interesting vehicle to explore post 9/11 tensions in the United States? That cheesy old 70s sci-fi idea, and they
Make the robots.
just completely change everything around, take all of the camp, all of the cheesiness out of it, and make from I think is one of the defining sci-fi series of the Bush years in terms of just making sci-fi that was relevant, that was talking about stuff that was very, very much in the cultural consciousness at that time.
I feel like you're making all of our future guests look bad if they can't ground their arguments in political history. Did you have any more that you wanted?
I love BSG.
Yes.
As soon as you said that, I could feel Stan's erection from over here.
It's pretty raging.
Yeah.
For sure.
You're not on the same side of the
You
desk.
said Battlestar, and I scooted my chair back.
I love it, man. Everything about that show is just brilliant.
Let's see. I think the other one I would say The Thing, probably my favorite horror film.
Wonderful.
And of course that gets,
Something that's better than the original, too.
Yeah, John Carpenter's The Thing.
and that gets into the whole question of when do you have a remake versus just a second adaptation of the same source material, because they're both based on a short story called Who Goes There, John Carpenter's The Thing, and it was The Thing from Another World was directed by
Howard Hawks.
Howard Hawks, yeah. It's sort of like True Grit, another great remake, which the Coen brothers always insisted they weren't remaking a John Wayne movie, they were just adapting a novel a second time.
And another True Grit, the Coen brothers, actually better than the original.
Well, yeah, because they stuck to the story.
And Grant, the original True Grit is a pretty great film for the most part, and Glenn Campbell's in it. But the Coen brothers is actually, yeah, like Chris said, it's actually almost a straight adaptation of the book, and the comment on violence and the comment on class warfare is pretty blatant in the reboot of it, the remake. I guess it would be a remake in a sense. But like you said, the Coen brothers were pretty adamant about it being an adaptation of the original book, which is a pretty intense book for being written in the 60s, up there with the James Joyce novels, So yeah, I like the Coen brothers' True Grit a lot.
Okay. Stan, your opinions on remakes that worked?
Remakes that worked.
Robert came out of the gate strong with a lot of good ones that I think were on a lot of our lists.
And I probably include a lot of his on mine. One of my favorites, of course, talking about Quentin Tarantino doing Reservoir Dogs, which is an adaptation of Kurosawa piece too. I think.
No.
No. Wait. Which one am I thinking?
No, not even a little.
It's a French film.
I thought it was just somebody mispronounced a title in his video store once as Reservoir Dogs, and that's where he decided.
That's where he got the title from. The film itself is a remake of, or I guess you could call it an expansion on the last 10 minutes of a French film.
It was Star Wars. That's the Hidden Fortress, right? Yeah.
Yes.
And so for me, not knowing the French film, Reservoir Dogs is a very successful adaptation of that moment in the French film. So I put that up there.
City on Fire.
City on Fire. That's
yeah,
right.
there it is.
And for me, if City on Fire is half as good as Reservoir Dogs, that's a great movie, because for that to be Tarantino's movie out of the block,
Hold on, I was combining my facts when we were talking about that. City on Fire is a Chinese film.
And it's Ringo Lamb, I believe.
Yeah,
and he's got a
not
series
French.
of On
So that's
Fire.
my
He's got
mistake.
City on Fire, Prison on Fire.
Stop lighting things on fire.
And they're all great in the sense of masculine, mano a mano warfare, but they're all great. I think you'll like this, David, but believe it or not, Spike Lee's adaptation of Old Boy. I liked a lot.
Did not see the remake of that.
I liked it a lot. I think it worked. I might be one of the few people that believe it works, but I like how he did a lot that Chan-wook Park does but instead of doing a straight hallway gauntlet, he does the gauntlet on a parking garage, so it goes down. It's a vertical
Multi-level.
Yeah, it's multi, and it goes down, so he's fighting people on each level of the parking garage. And it's Josh Brolin, right?
Yeah.
Again, we were talking about this, how Josh Brolin's turned these genre movies into these classic artistic acting performances that he's done, like with Thanos and Cable in the Deadpool movies. It's like
Jonah Hex, obviously.
Yeah, and he does.
Stop it, Robert.
He does that with
Even Brolin's embarrassed by that one.
He's
mad about it, actually.
with a
Even Megan
Chan-wook Park
Fox is
Spike Lee
embarrassed by
movie,
that one.
So it's like, dig that. That was one of my favorites. I'm not in the habit of watching many remakes, and it's gonna be probably in the sense.
Because you introduced me to the original Let the Right One In.
Oh,
Did you see
shit!
the
Yeah,
Let Me In?
yes. Let the Right One In. Let's amend my thing. That's probably the best. Was it Fincher? No, it was Matt Reeves. It was Matt Reeves. That he did a great adaptation. I call them adaptations.
Oh.
That's honestly kind of fair because with some of these, it's like different playhouses putting on productions
It is.
Right.
It
of
is.
varying quality. Especially the classics.
And he didn't redefine the story, the original story of Let the Right One In, because the original Danish one is a very great adaptation of the original book. Very, very connected, very straightforward with the book. And Matt Reeves reimagined, or it wasn't reimagined. It's very close to that movie, to the original film. And Chloe Grace Moretz, man, she's got a career, and it's Cody Scott McPhee, I think, as the boy who also has a career, and that's actually his performance in the remake of Let the Right One In. I believe is better than his performance in The Road, and I thought he was wonderful opposite Viggo Mortensen in The Road, and now he's growing up and doing all sorts of shit now. But Chloe Grace Moretz,
Unfortunately, has grown up and is not doing so much shit.
But the thing is, what the shit she does is great, and we'll probably end up talking about Kick-Ass 1 and 2 eventually as favorite sequels or whatever, and which introduced me to her, and she's awesome, and as the vampire girl in Let Me In, she's fantastic. She does a nice, and I'm not sure if she saw the original source material or not, but whatever Matt Reeves got her to do was really cool. And for the pool scene itself is just amazing in both versions, but they do a really great job in the Reeves. And that takes me to talking about Let the Right One In reminded me of another movie, but of course I'm going to forget. I'll probably bring it up later on, but
Stan's just going to shout out his idea in the middle of the Chris or me talking.
But thank you for reminding me of that. That's a great tribute both to the original book and to the original film.
And to a point that Chris brought up off air when we were talking between episodes, it's one of those films where I saw the original Let the Right One In. I loved it so much, I felt no compulsion to see the remake. I do love Chloe Grace Moretz, but the remake just did not hold any interest for me.
I remembered Fincher's adaptation,
Dragon Tattoo.
Yep.
which I guess nobody else liked because
I love it. It's
they're not
on my-
continuing it.
Well, yeah.
I admit, I saw that and I admired it. I liked its craftsmanship, but it was also like this. I don't feel any interest to watch the original or read the novel. This is a fantastic portrait of a world I don't wish to spend more time in.
See the original. Yes, see the original. especially for Rumi Rapid.
Numi
Numi
Rapace.
Numi Rapace, she's brilliant. The male lead,
Michael Nyqvist.
Michael Nyqvist, all great. I mean, and Michael Nyqvist has a long-standing career in Danish film and such, and so it's like, yes, Robert, and Reed, especially the first two novels in the series are brilliant, and the first two, because they did do the whole series. So the first two movies are great of the Millennium Sequence.
And now we're getting a reboot, Rooney Mara and Daniel Craiglis of the girl in the Spider's Web.
Are we really?
Yeah. I don't know.
Did I know that?
I don't know how I feel about it. I read the book earlier this year. The book was all right. Didn't have the same flair as the originals did. But I've seen the trailer for Spider's Web, and
Claire Foy from The Crown has taken over the lead role.
She's pretty good. But Rooney Mara did who was a weird choice for me for that, and
she was brilliant.
And she was
Daniel
brilliant.
Craig was great.
Daniel Craig was way brilliant. I mean, that was a great cast. David Fincher did a great homage to
I remember
that.
when Daniel Craig got cast, and everyone said, "Oh, he's not right for that role. He can't replace Michael Nyqvist." But I thought he was brilliant.
Oh, he's great. So I definitely throw that in. I wish they would have continued. I wish Fincher would have gone on and made the series, because for me it took Fincher back to Seven and The Game, back to what we discovered. Not the later Fincher with
more Fight Club and Seven, less Social Network.
Totally, and that's what his remake of or reboot of Girl with the Dragon Tattoo did, because and then it also introduced us to, and we talked about this in the last episode, it introduced us to Atticus Finch and Trent Reznor as score writers.
Just gonna check. You mean Atticus Ross, right?
Atticus Ross.
Atticus Finch.
Trent Reznor
Very different.
Trent Reznor is sitting in the room arranging sound, and Atticus Finch comes in with his lapels and just, I want to make sure we all understand.
We might need to keep him on this fact checker.
I knew you said something incorrect, but it didn't immediately occur to me.
It was a test.
I didn't know enough to correct you about it.
It was a test for Robert because I knew it was Atticus Ross.
Yeah.
But that was I believe that's the first team up as scorists. The lead singer of Nine Inch Nails and
the protagonist
EDM.
from a classic.
Protagonist from a classic, but an EDM maestro. In Atticus Ross, teaming up to, and not like Johnny Greenwood, they're doing all of Fincher's stuff. No, I guess Social Network was their first. Social, and they won the Oscar for that one. So,
Chris, favorite?
I'm sorry, I've
remakes that worked.
I've been quiet because I've been looking through the Wikipedia list of remakes. Did you know Angels in the Outfield is a remake?
yes.
I remember seeing that on that list.
I didn't know. I had no idea.
A remake of what? Was
Angels in the Outfield from
Okay.
1951.
So it's not even like a different sport in the original?
No,
Just
it's the
kinda-
same thing. It's
Now with 100% more Kevin Costner.
I'm sorry.
Heaven can wait.
Little Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Just
I know.
It was just, yes.
And also, there's been no less than 6 remakes of Brewster's Millions between the first one in 1914 and the one Richard Pryor did in like the 80s.
Ooh.
6.
But were they all called Brewster's Million?
There were variations.
Okay, all right.
I think I've still got it. Yeah,
Brewster's tens of dollars.
well. Hang on,
Brewster's
I
$100,000s.
have it pulled up over here. Hang on. It's
One of my favorite things about this Wikipedia list, by the way, is they'll go for anything as a remake. Like, if you look down that page, the 1990s film with Pamela Anderson, Barb Wire, is listed as a remake of Casablanca. It's officially categorized as that.
Technically, it kind of is.
Yeah.
You go to hell.
No, I mean, that is the
Because
premise.
later we're going to discuss films that should never be remade.
It is.
And Casablanca is on my list.
They took the premise and fucked it up. That's basically what happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
I never saw Barbed Wire. Never knew that's what that was considered.
That is what kind of the idea is. She runs basically a Casablanca
That
type place
is
in a
Pamela Anderson
post-apocalypse.
is
bonkers.
Humphrey Bogart.
Oh my god!
Ilsa-
Don't ever say those words again.
Ilsa is Jango Fett from the Star Wars movies. Tamura Morrison. It's
I don't like any of the things that you're saying.
Xander Berkeley, a character actor who's in Air Force One, and everything in between. He's the Claude Rains character. It's a stupid idea. It's stupidly executed, but it exists and it's on Wikipedia as a remake of Casablanca.
It is.
So
Wow.
That's kind of like I don't think they would admit to, the filmmakers would admit to that, and I don't think it was an outright thing they went for. But I mean, technically, yeah, kind of, but not really. It's basically like, hey, I like that idea. Let me fuck it up.
Hensley is stumped.
I am. I did
flabbergasted.
not know that.
He did not see it coming.
There is genuine pain in Hensley's eyes.
Yeah.
He is glassing over. Tears are falling.
Well, what I was gonna say is like Brewster's Millions was first made in 1914. Then there was a remake in 21. Then there was a Miss Brewster's Millions in 26. Brewster's Millions again in 35.
That's miss, not missed, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Another two, one in 35, one in 45, and then one called Three on a Spree in 1961, and then it was Brewster's Millions in 1985.
God.
Yeah, a lot of them don't jump to mind. I don't know what it is. Some remakes just don't. Remakes don't stick with me a lot.
Yeah.
Even if they're good movies. I don't know. Maybe
Trading Places.
that was that a remake?
I believe it was a remake of something. Maybe Brewster's Millions.
Possibly a French film at this point, because that's what so many of these are on this list. Is like, here, we remade this French film. True Lies is a remake of a French
It
film.
is. It is. Yes.
You're full of shit.
No, it is.
It is. It was made in 91 in France. Taxi, the Jimmy Fallon Queen Latifah
wow.
movie, is a remake.
where they're trying to stop it's like a team of bank robbing supermodels.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say, I think the series that seems to be working best right now in terms of remakes is Disney's drive to remake every animated feature they've ever made as live action.
See, I was gonna save that for the next section where we talk
I'm
about the
sorry.
remakes that don't work.
Well, I mean, do by all means. At the very least, it's making them money.
that is true.
What's weird is I don't know. They don't really seem to bring it up a lot. It kind of started back in '96 with 101 Dalmatians,
Yeah.
because they remade that with Glenn Close's Cruella de Vil, and then they made a sequel to it where Eric Idle voiced a
It
parrot.
did restart Glenn Close's career, though. I have to give it that much.
And Hugh Laurie was in it. He was
Yeah, he's
Horace.
one of, like, the
He was
thugs,
either
right?
Horace or Jasper. I
Yeah.
can't remember which one. That's why I was looking through this list. I was like, which ones have I seen that I would say are really good? And I don't know. Well, I mean, okay. I guess that makes sense. Technically, Young Frankenstein is a remake of Son of Frankenstein.
Okay.
Apparently.
All right.
I would say it's a more direct remake of Frankenstein, because I last year at the Airsley we saw the original, or not the original, but the classic one from the 30s. Was it? I don't know if it was earlier or not, but the 30s, I think.
31.
Yeah. So thinking back on that and Young Frankenstein, it's pretty much the same movie, except there's more deliberate comedy.
Unless chucking children into lakes.
That's the best part of Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. He's playing with the little girl and she's like, "You're hurting me." And the next scene is just fling into the water.
And
He's just,
he doesn't know. He doesn't understand
Right.
that he's hurting her, and it's like
and it's supposed to be a dramatic moment. And I'm sure back then people were like, "Oh, how horrible." I started laughing my
Oh,
ass
yeah.
off.
I was
our
watching it with
entire
all
row.
of you, and I couldn't believe it.
We laughed hysterically and then got chastised afterwards by one of our friends. Like, you guys, that was a serious moment. That
No,
was
it wasn't.
horrific." And we're
No,
like,
it was not.
No, you're wrong. That
Because
was
in my head,
hilarious.
that girl may have went, "You're hurting me."
I think that's what we laughed during the film, and then you made that joke immediately afterwards and set us all off again. You're hurting me.
That's hilarious.
Because that's
like
what it
high
was.
tension, man.
Because she just went, "You're hurting me," and then fling. It's just
All right. Well, my list is already been covered. A lot of these. The Departed, love it. Ocean's 11, Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. John Carpenter's The Thing.
Yeah.
I do have a few different ones on here. Oh, I already brought up Michael Mann's Heat as a remake of his own film. Rob Zombie's Halloween. I actually enjoy the
first one.
the first one.
Yes,
Rob
yes.
Zombie's Halloween 2 is trash. But as a remake of a horror classic goes, Rob Zombie's Halloween is pretty damn good, especially in comparison to a lot of the other classic horror remakes that we've gotten since
I agree.
then.
Okay.
I agree.
I do think when you compare it to like because I think it was from about 2001 to 2010 they tried to reboot Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm
Chainsaw.
Street, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Amityville Horror.
I'm
almost
one of
everything.
8 people that like Nightmare on Elm Street.
I didn't hate the Nightmare on Elm Street
Jackie Earle
remake.
Haley, I thought was perfect.
I think
Chris
he's
is
great
raising
casting.
his
I got to
hand
jump in
excitedly.
for 1 second, not to derail anything. To your credit for what you're saying about this list, on the list of remakes of the Ten Commandments, there's the Ten Commandments. There's the original in 23.
Return to the Ten Commandments.
There's
The
nine.
11th Commandment.
There's 1956's, which is I think the one.
Heston.
The Heston one?
Yeah, the Heston one. There's one in 2006, and then they list Exodus: Gods and Kings from
Yes.
2014. No,
Because it's the story of Moses. I mean,
no.
hold on, is Prince of Egypt on there?
Wait, no, it's not actually. This
that-
list is stupid.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
One,
My faith in Wikipedia is being shaken right now.
I'm sure there are more that I could put on this list, but from what immediately came to mind, the 310 to Yuma remake. Just watched it again recently.
yes, thank
Christian
you.
Bale and Russell Crowe are brilliant. It's a great film, and I also really enjoyed the Magnificent Seven remake.
I should have had both of those on my list too, because those are two movies that the originals are favorites of mine, and to see Russell Crowe and Christian Bale do those characters in 310 to Yuma
And keep their tempers in check
and
together.
keep their tempers and it did not seem like they were rivaling each other. It was they were playing literally well with each
No
other. It
one
was great.
assaulted any crew
No one-
members, as far as I'm aware.
As far as
and
we
if-
know.
All right, folks, it's time to take a quick break to give a shout out to this episode's sponsor, Credit Crackers. Credit Crackers is a group of disgruntled college computer science dropouts who will personally hack all of the major credit databases and fix your credit score for you. Also, be sure to check out their side hustle, Cube Club, where they will personally design a website for you as long as you agree to make payments on their back-due student loans. So check out both Credit Crackers and Cube Club. Now, back to the episode.
All right. Well, let's move on. Into,
Oh man, they remade the movie Gaslight in 1940 and 44, or they just did it the once and they're just trying to convince
As
us it happened
Electric
twice.
Boogaloo.
Wow.
That's where we get the
I
phrase
see what you
gaslighting.
did there. I'm not happy about it.
Well, that's where we get the phrase gaslighting from.
Right.
Oh man, I'm sorry. You were saying?
No. All right. So this one's going to be a fun topic.
Oh yes.
Remakes that didn't work. Robert, start us off.
Psycho.
Yeah.
Thank
That's
you.
Remake of Psycho. We're gonna do the exact same thing, but with less interesting actors and
In color.
yeah. So
And 100% more Vince Vaughn.
even Gus Van Sant has kind of admitted, like, I wasn't really trying to do anything here,
Yeah.
but
Well, they joked about it in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. Actually, they have a scene where Gus Van Sant is directing. What was it?
Good Will Hunting
Good Will
2.
Hunting 2, and he's just sitting over off to the side counting money, going, "Yeah, that's fine, whatever."
yeah, let's see, the American Godzilla from the 90s. I liked the more recent Godzilla.
2014, I think, was really good. I mean, there's still some people who are down on it, but it's leagues ahead of '98.
Yes.
And it's setting up the new
It was-
King of
Monster Island
Monsters.
movie.
It was Roland Emmerich was doing his best to be like, we're going to take this and we're going to do it the American way, and it's going to be awesome, and everyone rightfully took a shit on it.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
Roland Emmerich's idea of the American way is kind of skewed, but
Louder, worse acted, and more
but
explosions.
I did love Day After Tomorrow.
I mean,
We could have a high tension-esque... Actually, no, we couldn't because I don't remember as many details.
you should both sit down and watch Geostorm and see what happens,
Oh, Geostorm.
or do a double feature of Independence Day and its sequel.
10,000.
How did this get made was all I need to know about Geo.
Geostorm. I forgot that movie exists. I forgot that episode happened after I listened to it, and I remember talking to you, and I was like, "What episode was that?" Geo, and I forgot. I had literally forgotten that movie, even though they were talking about it and making fun of it the whole time.
Any more that you don't think worked as remakes?
Well, you
or
were going to
remakes?
say the Disney ones aren't really.
I was gonna say okay.
See, here's the
and
thing, I haven't seen them, so I wasn't sure.
I haven't seen all of them. I'll admit I have, and it is one of those cases where I had kind of a visceral reaction to the knowledge that they were remaking Beauty and the Beast, not just telling the story again, but we're gonna remake the animated one from the '90s, which is, for my money, maybe the masterpiece.
They're working on
of that
Aladdin
period.
right
It's
now.
Perfect movie, dude.
Yeah, and so and because I did not see the remake, so it's unfair of me to say it doesn't work as a film. I'll admit that, but I think one of the things
The girls like it.
Well, some of them. That was specifically Katie's, like the night before our wedding, her and my mom and her mom and a bunch of the women in the wedding party went at midnight to see the Beauty and the Beast remake with Emma Watson, and Katie did not enjoy it so much.
I guess
Really?
what I run into there, and it's hard to make across the board statements about what does and does not work for a remake, but what I do find is kind of an indicator of trouble is that they're not so much trying to tell the story again as much as they're trying to recapture the magic of a specific movie. That this isn't like we talked about Ocean's 11 having a much different idea of what to do with the same concept and Beauty and the Beast. They didn't come up with that idea in the '90s. It was an adaptation of an old story, and there have been plenty of other film and TV versions of that tale, but that they're trying specifically to evoke all these images from the '90s. I feel like that there's something inherently mercenary about that even coming out of
Maybe
Disney.
It is surprising because they started out the gate with the retelling of Sleeping Beauty as Maleficent.
Right, which that I would like to see, because that does sound like an interesting retake of whether it works or not in concept is a different thing. But that, I think, is at least starting from a place of here's an idea of something new we can bring to the table, as opposed to people liked this. If we give them the same thing again, if we basically reheat these leftovers in the microwave, they'll pay for it again. So, and
we'll get
That's-
to that idea pretty soon, I guess. But
stepping into possibly controversial waters, that was actually one of the things that I thought brought down the recent reboot of the Ghostbusters film.
Oh lordy!
Which I'm gonna go say up
I'm
front.
going to go smoke a cigarette while Robert talks about
I'm gonna
this.
say up front, I liked the cast. I really did. I think these are four very talented comedic
Oh yeah, the
performers.
cast is not what was wrong with that.
No,
Yeah, no.
There and there, as I'll say, Red Letter Media. They have a whole series of reviews they do with a character called Mr. Plinkett, and they did one for this movie. It's an hour long, and it is a very comprehensive takedown of all the failings of this particular movie.
And the thing it is, there are bits of it I liked, there are bits of it I enjoyed, but I think the thing it ran into that kind of handicapped it from the get-go is that it was trying to pay loving tribute to this movie that part of its charm was just how it didn't take itself seriously.
Lip service, honestly.
Yeah, the original Ghostbusters, nobody is treating it like they're making a masterpiece. Bill Murray has kind of said he didn't really take it that seriously when they were doing it, and that's how you got what you got. And here, all these decades later, you're trying to recapture the spark of a beloved comedy, and that reverence is kind of antithetical to what you really need to make that magic work. So while I think, and again, there were people who chose to hate this movie sight unseen for very, very stupid reasons, but I do think it ultimately didn't come together as its own film or as a remake.
Hashtag not my Ghostbusters.
After the first trailer, I wrote off this movie, not because it was women playing the roles, but because it looked like every stupid generic comedy trope jammed into this movie that's not necessarily just on itself a comedy. It's funny, but it's not vying to be a comedy. And I think a lot of that is Paul Feig's fault.
Yeah, I mean, I like Paul Feig as a director. I've loved other movies he's done, that Melissa McCarthy's done. Again, great cast, great team. It's just, I think for a lot of reasons, but in large part because they were trying to capture something that was just organic and spontaneous the first time, it just...
And also the original, it went into several genres. It works as a comedy. It works as a dark comedy. It works as a horror film. It works as a serious drama. It's got all of those elements pulled together.
It's basically a horror comedy before that label was slapped on things.
Yeah.
Honestly.
There's an earnestness to like what they're doing for most of them that I think the fact that Bill Murray again does that his character also just at the beginning we see him just playing around with that card test just to screw with the people across the table from him.
Yeah.
And in the remake again, they're paranormalists who genuinely believe in what they're doing, and that's just inherently less funny.
It is, because really it was like Stance was the only true believer.
Yeah.
And Egon was kind of just interested from a technical standpoint.
And a scientific aspect.
Yeah. And then why did I say Spangler?
Venkman?
Venkman was just there because it's like he needed money. Well, not that. He saw an easy way to get money.
Yeah.
And then Zeddemore was there. It was just like he was the kind of the audience.
He was the blue collar guy.
He was the blue collar guy. He was just the regular guy who was like, whatever, I'm in this as long as I get a paycheck. And he literally says that in the movie.
Yeah. Stan, remakes that didn't work?
This is a little hard for me because I'll see a film, a remake, if the source material, the original source material is of interest of me. And so it's like, okay, what did you do to take... Because I didn't see the new Ghostbusters. I'm not as a huge, fanatic as you guys are of the Ghostbusters, but I still didn't think it would, live up to that quality, especially the first two Ghostbusters, Ghostbusters 3, whatever, but the first two Ghostbusters are...
Well, there really is no Ghostbusters 3 unless you count the video game.
Oh, so there is no...
and honestly, that's kind of Bill Murray's fault.
So Ghostbusters, the two original Ghostbusters, they pretty much did their story, for me. So the idea of being interested in this remake wasn't ever a concern for me, So I don't have to worry about getting into controversy. And I don't know if this counts, but I didn't like Bridesmaids. This would probably get me in trouble, which I believe is a remake of...
Quick, Chris, go to Wikipedia.
Hang on. I don't think it is.
Yeah.
The male version.
Are you talking about Bachelor Party?
Where they go to Vegas.
The Hangover?
Hangover, yes.
No.
But
Two completely different films.
I believe it is, but
Maybe
All right,
maybe
we're going on record. Stan thinks Bridesmaids was a remake of The Hangover.
that's what I got on
I
when
think
saw
it was
it.
meant to be kind of in the same kind of idea, but
No, they did what really seemed like an all-female version of The Hangover earlier this year, wasn't
No.
it? Like Rough Night
the
with Scarlett
yeah.
Johansson.
Yeah, yeah,
what's her
yeah.
face?
Yeah.
The new Tiffany Haddish or something like that. But no, I really believed Bridesmaids was a response to The Hangover, and it's like I hated the Bridesmaids, but I guess it doesn't count because
The Bridesmaids.
The Bridesmaids over.
Bridesmaids, the movie was great, but I hated the Bridesmaids.
I enjoyed 3/4 of Bridesmaids. I think the entire
and
film fell apart right there at the end.
I love those women because I'm a fan of all of them, and it's like, but I didn't think they were good together.
I feel like
which is weird.
Not to take us off topic, I feel I need to balance this out by talking about the Paul Feig movies that I did love. Spy and Heat, I thought were fantastic.
You mean The Heat.
Heat is
not
also,
Don't worry, David's gonna correct you on that one.
the scene where Melissa McCarthy and Robert De Niro sit down and
Have a conversation.
Finally, after all these years, they share a scene.
De Niro sips a cup of coffee and McCarthy trips over the booth and flips over the table, and it's hilarious.
Shit, that was a smooth
Okay,
save.
then I guess I can't include because that was my only pick.
Okay.
What did I?
I don't
know
know
I've
whether
seen
it's
something.
better to just edit that entire thing out or leave it
Maybe.
in there for
Probably.
hilarity's sake.
I'd be cool if you edited that.
But it because I was really disappointed. I'll keep talking about it, but I was disappointed in those chicks. But
I'll just keep talking.
All right,
It's
I'm gonna
kind of
edit
standard
that part
mantra.
out. So, Chris, remakes that didn't work. What do you think?
There are some that spring to mind. It's like, and honestly, looking back up and down the stairs, I forgot there was a Total Recall remake in 2012.
That's right.
Oh yeah.
Forgettable, completely forgettable. The RoboCop remake,
Yeah.
forgettable, completely forgettable.
It was part of the trend of taking R-rated '80s movies and making them into
PG-13.
PG-13.
Yeah, because
movies.
they wanted to try and make let's make a new franchise. So and hey, the way you make all the money is if you can get the whole family in there, get the kids in too. Here's one I saw and I honestly forgot, which is a shame. The Stepford Wives remake in 2004. Not a good remake, and it's also a shame because I like Frank Oz. I think he's good. He's a good director, but that did not come off very well.
Did people at the time, I haven't seen the original or the remake, did people at the time comment that Frank Oz is directing a movie about puppet people?
I'm sure someone made that connection. Okay, I never. I'll give it a second.
Let's take a moment to let Stan die.
I don't know if I can, because that's going to keep happening. Are we good? Yeah. Are you sure? Okay, I will say I was remiss when talking about remakes that work because The Producers is a good example.
Okay.
True that.
Yeah. Going back down to ones that didn't work. I just lost it. Never mind. That's the problem with a lot of remakes. Either you don't realize it's one at first if it's passable, or it's terrible and forgettable, and you come back. I was like, oh, I guess there was a Point Break remake a couple years back.
Yep.
There was.
Again, gone.
Well,
Planet of the Apes. I did see that one. Not great.
I was about to say we could not have a discussion about bad remakes if we didn't include The Wicker Man.
If
But
by
that
bad
one-
you mean best remake of all time?
Well, Robert, thank you for being on the podcast. It was great having you here today.
That-
yeah, we gotta talk
Isn't
about
that the one with Nicolas Cage?
Yes.
Nicolas Cage and
Gloriously insane. It is just that's all you can call it.
Yeah, and like you just said, the Planet of the Apes remake, which was confusing at
The
best.
Tim Burton one, right?
Yeah.
Because the
Yeah.
new ones,
Oh,
yeah,
Rise
yeah,
of
yeah.
the Planet of the Apes was great.
Yeah.
War for the Planet
Those
is
are
probably
good.
the best movie of last year.
But the Tim Burton Marky Mark Planet of the Apes
Because he was still kind of marking
was abysmal.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
It was no boogie
Where
nights.
they really do develop a love story between Mark Wahlberg and an anthropomorphic chimpanzee. Just like it's Helena Bonham Carter and
And makeup, yeah. Yeah. I can't really speak to this one, but they did remake Annie twice
They did, yes.
versus the 82 one.
the one with Victor Garber was pretty good.
Yeah.
Any other good ones on there?
No.
They did a
No, another one that didn't work. 'Cause I know this one didn't work. The Russell Brand Arthur remake from 2011
Oh, God, I forgot all about
Yeah.
that.
with Helen Mirren as his butler.
Yeah.
I don't know if my dad's going to listen to this, but we were actually having a conversation the other night where one of his favorite movies of all time is The Music Man with Robert Preston, and they remade that with Matthew Broderick, reprising the role he played on Broadway as Harold Hill. And I like Matthew Broderick. I think he's a talented guy, but yeah, he can't carry that the way Preston could. That it's one of the great musical adaptations, I think.
Yeah, that original Music Man film was really good, and Robert Preston is amazing.
Oh, I can't believe I got glossed over in terms of ones that work. The Birdcage.
Oh,
Birdcage is an excellent remake.
it is great. From great source material as well.
Yeah, yeah. I've heard nothing but good things about the original and the remake. Well, I mean, I've seen what did I say? The original, I mean, because I've seen the remake. And it's Robin Williams, and it's
Gene Hackman.
Gene Hackman
Brilliant.
and Nathan Lane.
Yeah.
Did anyone here see the Clash of the Titans remake
No.
with Sam Worthington?
I did.
No.
I did.
What about, how do we feel about the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory?
I'm one of the few people who was like, it was pretty good. I mean, as I know in retrospect, a lot of people have liked it less as time went on. That one, despite a few other inclusions, was actually more committed to the book than the original movie was. But Willy Wonka was also good, and except for that minute, it decided to just traumatize people.
That was the best part.
No, it wasn't.
Why do you like things that hurt people?
Because it's hilarious.
All right.
That
I
about
think
sums
that
it up.
Pretty well covers
Stan's
bad-
psyche.
Stan's psyche and also bad remakes. Let's move into the final topic for this discussion: films that we feel shouldn't be remade. And I get the feeling we're going to be on the same page for all. We're all going to be on the same page for a lot of these. Robert, start us off. What should never be remade?
Well, we already mentioned Casablanca.
Thank you.
I think, yeah.
Barbed wire doesn't
well.
count.
No, it does not.
To preserve Dave's sanity, it does not count.
This one sort of has been remade, but I would say Singin' in the Rain as a film. I know it's been adapted to the stage, but I think as a movie, you can't do better than what you had with Gene Kelly, Donald O'Connor.
I wouldn't mind seeing an attempt though, because there
No,
are.
I tend to agree with Robert.
I agree with you, but there are some folks in the
As
musical
long
theater
as they don't
world
go
now,
full psycho, which is a fun phrase to say, and just try and
because there are some great singers and comedic actors on Broadway now that if they went and did the film version of it, I think it would be
Yeah,
interesting
but
to see.
we-
But there is no Gene
Well,
Kelly.
I think the problem... Well, sorry, good.
I think we all know that there are a lot of talented performers out there right now who could do that part, and we wouldn't get any of them. If they remade Singing in the Rain, we'd get the fucking guy from Maroon 5 playing Gene Kelly's part.
I
Adam Levine?
tend to agree with
Yes.
that, but if it was somebody like say a Scorsese or somebody that was okay, what do I want to be my first musical?
Martin
You know-
Scorsese directs Singing in the Rain.
It would be amazing.
I'm
I mean,
singing
it would
in
be
the
an amazing-
goddamn rain.
Steven Spielberg's doing
The rain's a
West
lot
Side
redder
Story,
than I
so-
thought it would be.
That's right, he is, isn't he?
Steven Spielberg's what?
Steven Spielberg's
Doing-
directing West Side Story.
'cause-
That's coming up.
We would say that shouldn't be remade.
Classic
again,
tale
you know,
of Jews
but,
and Puerto Ricans.
But I agree with you. It probably shouldn't be done, but it would be an interesting experiment for a quality director doing with quality performers in those roles.
I think what you'd run into is that I agree. It could be a quality film, but you'd run into the issue that the best case scenario for that film is it would be almost as good as what we already had. Like I can't imagine a film that is as good or better, and that I don't think that that's a premise that leaves any more to explore. That
I
there's
agree with that. It would be nice to see Kristen Chenoweth do the
Good Morning or
that and her role. Debbie Reynolds. It would be fun
yeah,
seeing
I'm blanking on her character's name though.
Kristen Chenoweth doing Debbie Reynolds' role, and then having somebody because we have several actors that could do the one that she does the voice for. But yeah,
Debbie Reynolds plays Kathy Selden.
Yes.
Kathy Selden. Just snapped into the mic. Sorry
because
about that.
and they could throw Kristen Chenoweth all around. It would be awesome. But
I thought you were going to say off a cliff. I don't know why.
but I do agree with you that it would be hard to find a Gene Kelly Donald O'Connor combination anywhere.
All right. Well, did you have any more, Robert?
One more I'd throw out there, and this
Before Stan takes his official turn.
and this one falls into the realm of, again, movies that were masterpieces almost, it feels like, by accident, so there's no way to do it better. I would say The Princess Bride, just as a case where you've got this alchemy of they're winking and playing around with sort of fairy tale tropes, but also enjoying there's some it's both sweet and knowing at the same time. Like, it manages to be both earnest and also self-aware, and it's a balance that's almost impossible to get if you're trying to. It just sort of happened.
And Andre the Giant.
Yeah, like you couldn't recapture almost any of those performances. Again, like, the best case scenario would be this could be almost as good as the perfect thing we've already got.
All right, Stan, your pick or picks for films that should never be remade.
I don't have a problem with Casablanca being remade, because I think there's still a lot of stuff in Casablanca that could be told now, interestingly, that wasn't allowed to be told at that time.
To be fair, even if they remade it and it bombed big time, it would only make the original shine brighter.
True, I agree with that. I don't think you can top Peter Jackson's version of Lord of the Rings. So if they go back to that without Peter Jackson, I think that would be suicide for whoever's doing it. That is, I was talking about perfect films earlier. That to me is perfect series of movie making. Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I don't think you could remake it, and I think it would be. That is a movie of its time, and it's a movie of. It was singularly Spielberg. Jaws has been remade like 40 million times. We have one in the theater right now.
And I
Meg.
think the failing with each Jaws that attempts, each movie that tries to out Jaws is that they want to go bigger and better, but they really don't need to.
Jaws is a perfect film.
But for some reason, people loved the Meg.
A lot of people love the Meg. A lot of people love.
It's already super profitable.
What's the torso? The Asylum films. With the 3-headed sharks and mega shark versus.
Sharktopus?
That's
Sharktopus.
sci-fi stuff.
Ghost shark. But Asylum is making a career for themselves doing that. So I guess that makes them legit. But they shouldn't be doing it. I'm not sure if I have a straight answer for you on that, but and I'm sure I'll go home tonight and I'll say that movie really shouldn't be remade. West Side Story. The only reason, if it wasn't Spielberg, I would be totally against a remake of that. Spielberg can do anything he wants, and I don't mind.
West Side Story, I'm actually open to that one. I think the original is a classic, but I mean, it's not so perfect that there aren't ways to
And it's Romeo and Juliet. So.
Yeah, like it's just a different take on that story. And, if they just crazy out there wanted to cast actual Puerto Rican actors and actresses to play the Puerto Rican characters.
That's crazy, Robert. You're crazy.
Yeah, it sounded weird as soon as I said
Is he
it. I
doing?
don't know.
Is he doing the musical?
I believe so. I mean, is there a
That's
non-musical version of West Side? Well, Romeo and
Romeo and
Juliet,
Juliet.
obviously.
Chris, movies that should never be remade.
The one I was thinking about this while you guys were talking, and I was like, the one that springs to mind the hardest is, because I always hear the phrase accompanied with it, boy, you just can't make a movie like that nowadays. And it's Blazing Saddles. And it's like, yeah, because maybe you shouldn't try to.
Right.
Yeah.
It made the statement it needed to make, and it's still a classic. There's no need to remake it.
No.
There's no need to even think about it. There's no, there's and a lot. That's true of a lot of classic comedies. Looking through Google Images, like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. God help us if someone tried to remake that. There's no one who could inhabit those roles the way Steve Martin and John Candy did. Tentatively, I am on board with the idea of a Clue remake because it's rumored that Ryan Reynolds is helping produce it.
That could be fun.
That
Yeah.
I'm looking for.
I could get on board for that.
Yeah,
Because
there's
I
enough
feel
to
like
do with that scenario.
if he's not Mr. Green, something has gone seriously wrong.
I could also see him playing Wadsworth, though.
Actually, yeah, you're right. But that was the two I thought of. I was like, he'd be either Mr. Green or Wadsworth.
So they
Yeah, now I just want a fan cast.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. That's for another podcast, though.
Yeah, all right. We're going to record another episode now. Fan cast of the Clue remake.
Strap in.
It's going to be 6 hours long.
You'll love it.
I'm gonna dig in on this hill for Christina Hendricks as Miss Scarlet and be ready
Yes.
Not Scarlett Johansson
No.
as Miss Scarlet.
No.
to. No.
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 Any more,
Scarlett
Chris?
Johansson.
No, I think that's about it. Like Blazing Saddles again is just like something that's A, perfect as a product of its time, and B, doesn't need to be re-examined. I think that's the failing of a lot of remakes. It when it doesn't try so hard to inhabit what was there before. Like, because I think the important thing of a remake is keeping the themes.
Or what were some unexplored themes of the original that are
Exactly.
more relevant
Right.
now than they were then?
It's like, in a very basic sense, it's like what makes a good remix of a song or a good cover of a song. It's not necessarily a perfect recreation of it or an attempt to make a recreation and failing. It's finding what you loved about the song and expanding on that, and it's making something new out of it.
Well, I've got two, one of which I can't believe no one else mentioned. The Godfather.
That's because I haven't seen it.
Jesus.
And hasn't it been remade a few times?
I watch what I want.
No, I don't think so.
It-
The other one is just the Tarantino fanboy in me, and that's Pulp Fiction. Imitators have tried to jack his style for
Yep.
the last 20 years, and no one can do it like he can. God help whoever tries to take on a Pulp
He barely
Fiction
can.
Actually,
how
I'll
much
amend
we
my
love
statement. I don't think anything Mel Brooks has already done should be remade.
I think Dracula Dead and Loving It could use another go.
Another
round.
pass?
The Robin Hood one.
Oh, it's gonna be hard. Leslie Nielsen is dead and loving it at this point.
Oh,
You shut up. He'd have loved that.
Well, on that note, thank you once again for indulging me in this discussion. Thanks, Chris and Stan, and thank you, Robert, for being here with us for these past 2 episodes. We've enjoyed having you here.
it was a pleasure to be here.
If you have any thoughts that you'd like to share with us about remakes and sequels, reboots, superhero films, feel free to send those to me, david.longwalk@gmail.com. If you enjoy Long Walk Talks and this is work, please be sure to leave us a rating and review, and we'll see you again in a couple of weeks. Thank you, guys.